Welcome back to part two. In part two, we're going to look at marginal decisions, i.e., the concept of the marginal average, the total average, how these two influence our decision making. So let's go to share screens. Now, in the last week, we all agreed that when we make a decision or when we perform some economic activity, we do not perform these economic activities or make these decisions from from the first to the last unit in one shot. We go gradually. We produce one unit, we produce another unit, we produce another unit. We consume one unit, we consume another unit, we consume another unit. So whether our activity is related to production, whether our activity is related to consumption, we are just gradually, margin by margin, taking our activities. Unit by unit, we're taking our activities. So if you look at the slide over here, I've written that consumption and production decisions are made at the margin, i.e. unit by unit. So we never consume or produce 10 units in one decision. Normally, we consume or produce unit by unit. Marginal decisions over units introduces two interesting concepts. First of all, the total change. Second of all, the average change. What do we mean by a total change? By total change, we understand from 0 to say the 10 units. What is the total change? And what is the unit by unit average change? As we move from 0 to 1, what happens? As we move from 1 to 2, what happens? As we move from 2 to 3, what happens? We are going to look into this in a little while. First of all, let us revisit what we did in the last 2 weeks, that if our additional benefit is more than our additional cost, i.e. marginal benefit is better than marginal cost, then we increase or carry on doing the activity. The reverse is true if our additional benefit is less than our additional cost, then we reduce the activity. If additional benefit from additional cost are the same, then we are indifferent. We neither increase nor do we decrease. This we have defined as a situation of equilibrium or where no further change is required in the last class. Now, marginal change is nothing but the change between two successive units. We have produced 9 units or consumed 9 units. Now we are going to produce or consume the 10th unit. So as we do that, the marginal change is the change that we observe between two successive units, i.e. from the 9th to the 10th unit. Average change is the change that happens, is the total change that happens from the 0 to the 10th unit. Now, one thing we have to remember is that in any change, the marginal change happens first, and this marginal change influences what will happen on the average change. I have a very good analogy which I use, and probably you will also automatically identify with it. Even if we don't know what marginal change and average changes are, we are familiar with GPA and CGPA. What is GPA? A GPA is your average performance in one particular semester, one unit. What is CGPA? CGPA is the average of all these units from the first semester to the last observed semester. So if this is your third semester in the program, then you have one GPA. Why does the average change after marginal? Because after you get your GPA, after you get your marginal score at the end of the semester, then and only then can you calculate your CGPA, i.e. your total average. That's why marginal change happens first. The GPA comes into our calculations first. Once we get the GPA calculation, then we can calculate the total average. Before that, let me go get to the, where is it? Oh, okay. That is, so this is just a line, okay? And this is, sorry, this is 0 and this is 10. These are 0 units, this is 10 units. This is 9 units and this is 10, okay? So what unit is this? This is the 10th. When we say 10th unit, we are referring to only one particular unit. But when we say 10 units, then we are referring from the first to the last observed units. In this case, which is 0 to 10. Okay. Okay, now let us get back to the share screen. Okay, so if your GPA is better in this semester than it was in the last semester, what happens to your CGPA? CGPA increases. If your GPA is not as good as it was in the last semester, then what happens to your CGPA? CGPA falls. So the best way to understand is that if the marginal change is increasing, the average change will also increase. If marginal change is decreasing, average change will also decrease. And if marginal change, if your GPA is the same as it was in the last semester, then there will be no change in your CGPA. So if marginal change is unchanged, average is also unchanged. This is something that we can remember if we think that GPA is the marginal change, CGPA is the total average change. Okay, so we come to the end of part 2. In part 3, we'll look at the concept of net present value. Thanks. See you later.